will control this parameter. If I bring it up to white, you can see how rough the material is now. If I push it down, the roughness is gone. We can do the same with the float. Same condition applies, the color is black, so now we can use the float slider, and the higher it goes, the rougher the material. The texture and mix sliders operate the same way as they do under diffusion. The principles of bump and normal maps are pretty much the same across all render engines. These are used to add additional surface detail without altering the position of surface polygons. Displacement, however, is used to do pretty much the same, add additional surface detail, but at the cost of altering the position of surface polygons. This channel works in combination with a special shader called displacement, and it only accepts an external image. For the moment, we cannot use shaders of any kind. Next is opacity, and color in the context of opacity controls object visibility. As you can see, we are starting with black, meaning the float slider is actually in control. If I bring the slider down, you can see the visibility of the object slowly decreases. If I go all the way down to 0, the object basically vanishes. If the value of the float is set to 0, I can control the same thing by using the color slider. Note that with channels like opacity, bump and roughness, color saturation makes no sense. They only care about grayscale data. So if I push this value all the way up to white, the object is once again fully visible. Let's take a look at transmission. Now, by definition, this channel is used to set the base surface color. What this means is that if I set the familiar magenta here, you can see that only polygons which are indirectly lit by the light source, which in this case comes from the top left, are colorized in this magenta color. The other ones, which are directly facing the light source, are assigned this cyan. This behavior is often used for faking subsurface scattering effects. Next is emission. Emission works in combination with two special emission nodes, which allow you to basically turn any geometry into a mesh emitter, or in other words, to make any mesh cast light. We'll talk about this concept in a future tutorial. Medium also operates with specialized octane medium nodes that allow light to actually penetrate the mesh. Additionally, you have controls that allow you to alter absorption, subsurface scattering, or volume emission. Next, let's take a look at the channels available for the glossy material type. I will create a new material and select Octane Glossy. Take it and apply it to our object. Then either double-click the material or simply have it selected to view its properties in the Attributes Manager. Let's check the Basic tab. Here are all available parameters and channels specific for this material type. What's new here compared to the diffuse material type is that now we have specular, roughness, film width, film index and index. The rest are pretty much the same. Let's check index, which, as you probably already know, is the index of refraction as defined by the Fresnel law. To draw a better example of the specular material, I will push the index to a value of 6, which will create a reflection curve more suitable for metallic objects. Let's check diffuse and assign some base color to our mesh. Then let's take a look at specular, which controls the strength and color of specular reflections. We start with black color, meaning the float slider will have an effect on our render. If I push the value down, you can see that we are gradually reducing the strength of the reflection. A value of 0 will create a surface that very closely resembles the diffuse material type. If you wish to set a color for the reflections, simply pick any color you like this. If you want to reduce the strength of these colored reflections, simply go for the V parameter, which stands for value, and bring the value down to something like 50% or so. Let's reset it to white and move on to roughness. This parameter controls the sharpness of the reflection. With color set to black, we can push the float value to 0.25 and you can see how much blurrier the reflections are now. A value of 0.5 will create even more blurrier reflections, and so on. Just as the parameters for the diffuse material type, you may wish